What does it look like to turn your pain into purpose? What if the parts of yourself that you've been hiding are actually your greatest gifts to the world? Well, today's conversation is about vulnerability, advocacy, and the radical act of showing up as your full self, even when the world isn't always ready for you. Well, I'm Nyomi Banks, and you're listening to The Season of Self-Love. I'm joined by Dr. Victoria Medeley. She's a mental health advocate, a speaker, and an author who has walked through invisible challenges, invisible differences, and transformed them into a mission of allyship and healing. We're talking about self-advocacy, what it really means to be an ally, and why gaining back or giving back from a place of overflow and not depletion is the ultimate form of self-love. This is going to be powerful. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast, the season of healing intentionally. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am so glad that you are here. This season, we are slowing down to go deeper. Every Monday and Wednesday, we're creating a space of intentional healing, authentic conversations, and the kind of self-love that transforms from the inside out. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself intentionally is a foundation of true transformation. So whether you're on your own journey of rebirth, navigating life transitions, or simply choosing yourself, this is your safe space. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's heal together intentionally, because you deserve to embrace that beautiful person that you are. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am truly honored to be in this space with you today. You know, this month we are diving deep into that what speaks deep directly to our hearts, and that's giving back. Because sometimes the greatest way to love ourselves is just pouring into others, but from a place of overflow and not depletion. You know, Dr. Will tell us that all the time. Well, today's episode is called The Power of Service and Community, Embracing Vulnerability and Self-Love. And I have a very special guest joining me today. I have Dr. Victoria Medeley. Now, let me tell you about Victoria. She is a powerhouse. She's a speaker, a mental health advocate, and an author of an upcoming book named Act Like an Ally, Work with an Ally. But beyond the title, she's a woman who has walked through the fire, living with both invisible and visible challenges, and has turned her pain into purpose. So get ready for a heartfelt and powerful conversation about self-love, vulnerability, and how giving back to one of the most radical acts of healing. But before we bring Dr. V to the stage, let's take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good, so I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
Hey, it's your girl, the Goddess Nyomi Banks, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by. Me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to axnaomi.com and tell them Nyomi sent you. Well, all right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back. Well, hello and welcome, Dr. Victoria Medeley. Am I saying that last name right?
You are. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I am truly excited for this conversation. But what I want to do first is I want to just ground us before we get into the topic. Are you ready for that? You prepared for that one?
I'm ready for it.
All right, my beautiful listeners, you know how we do. If you could just get into a nice, comfortable position. All right. Find a comfortable space. Close your eyes. And take a deep breath in. Hold. Now, exhale slowly. I want you to feel your body grounding into this moment. Imagine a warm light within you, radiating strength, compassion, and connection. Now with each breath, I want you to invite a sense of openness, ready to serve, to heal, and to connect. Now when you breathe in, I want you to breathe in love, and I want you to breathe out fear. This is your time. This is your space. Let's begin. All right, my beautiful people. Again, thank you for just sharing that space with me. And if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, there's something we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to help ground us before we get into the topic. All right, Dr. V. So I had a chance to read part of your profile and stuff like that. And it's such a powerful story, one that touches mental health, alopecia, and your journey just toward radical self-acceptance. Can you walk us through how you found your way through those moments of darkness into your mission of advocacy right now?
Yeah, so I started my workplace inclusion journey back in 2016, 2017, working in the women in leadership space. And how do we get more women into leadership roles? You look at most organizational hierarchies, and the higher up you go, the less and less women there are. And that really, started my own journey into this workplace inclusion space. And then I realized it's so much more intersectional than just men and women or black and white or straight or LGBTQ, right? There's so many different intersections of identities that we have that the workplace and leaders particularly can do a better job of accommodating for, right? And so there's parents, and then there's people with invisible disabilities, and that could be, mental illness, it could be cancer, it could be, some other chronic disease, right? There's visible differences in the workplace, and I've given a talk on that. I have alopecia, and it's been manageable most of my life. I've had it since I was 20. But it's always come back. I get a little bald spot, it would come back. It was just like that cycle. And then last year in 2024, I lost it over the course of about 9 months. And in October of last year, I made the decision to just shave that 30% that was remaining off. You can't hide it when you're missing so much of it, right? And that was so liberating because you can't lose what you don't have. Like I took control of that situation and that narrative by deciding, well, if my hair is going to fall out, then I'm just going to be bald, so it can't fall out anymore, right? And so I wear different wigs when I do video, meetings or appearances like today. Sometimes I'll go full bald, but I like wearing the wigs. But when I'm out and about, I'll wear like a head wrap, and I feel like that's a nice compromise for me because it's comfortable, but it's still like being bald. It feels like being naked. It's like naked on top of your head. When you're ever naked on your head, so learning how to accept that. And I think through my challenges with mental illness, my challenges with death, with cancer, that I have that resilience now. That my latest battle with alopecia, even though some might think I lost because I'm bald, I feel like I won because I didn't let it consume my happiness, my joy. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that, and I love that. I love that you took it in your own hands. You shaved off your head, and I love when you say, I can't worry about something that I don't have. I can't worry about losing something that I don't have. And that's a very powerful thing. So I'm going to share a story with you really, really fast. when I was 40, I had found out that I was pregnant with my last child. And beforehand, I was told that I was unable to have any babies unless I had help, like if I went to fertility and stuff like that. So myself and my husband now, we didn't think we were going to have any more children. I already had two daughters from a previous marriage. And so when that came about, that was so surprising to me. And I was just, that actually had me created to where I retired from performing in front of the camera online. But I remember going through a process that I was sitting and I was like, okay, I want a new. And I know it's nothing like alopecia, but what happened was I shaved my entire head. I just shaved, and it was so freeing for me because my hair, I was taught that my hair is my crown. Yes. I taught that my hair was my crown. And so as you, I had over 200, 300 wigs. This was just even before I shaved my hair, but, just always having new hairstyles. Now I have natural locks, as you see right now, and I'm just embracing it. But I said that at probably in a few years, I probably would just shave it again because I don't want my identity to be outside of me.
Yeah.
And that's where, but I love that you truly took it in your own hand. And it's like a radical type of feel when you do that, a radical self-acceptance of that. So how did you realize the shift from your path, not only in your own life, but in your professional mission as well?
I think my initial shift was becoming a business owner. I never thought that was in the cards for me. But I had burnt out at my last job, and I found it so ironic because, I'm an organizational psychologist. Like I help people not burn out. I feel like I was a lung doctor out the back smoking a pack a day and getting lung cancer. Right? I can't be an organizational psychologist burning out, right? So I took the summer off, and when I came back, before I went on the job market, I was reflecting how people have told me I was entrepreneurial. I didn't really know what that meant. Never started a business before. I was like, could I get a client? And I did. And I was like, could I get another client? Could I make X amount with revenue or whatever? But also what I was doing as I hit all those milestones and then decided to go all in, I was creating a workplace that didn't exist for me in the past. So my last job I burnt out at. The job before that, I was under challenged, having to navigate, I struggle with depression, having to navigate that as an employee, and how do you advocate for yourself but still be a good employee, and where's that balance? Being a mom, needing flexible hours, right? So I created a workplace that accommodated for all those different aspects, but not only my identity, but others' identity in the workplace as well. For example, one of our employees is non-binary, and their pronouns are they, them. And I made sure on Slack before, I was like, hey, their pronouns are they, them. So just so everyone knows, when they come in, their first day is tomorrow, and that, so just little things like that, but it all accumulates, we weren't an overworked society, overworked organization or overworked culture, we did good work and we got it done, but it was never at the expense of anyone's well-being.
Right.
So I think that was a big shift for me, that I can create a space that's healthy and accommodating and just recognizes our humanity. Even though we're coming to work, we're in our human bodies, in our human minds. And so we need to be treated as such.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's talk about vulnerability. It's so many of us, we fear being seen, especially when we're struggling. But you found the vulnerability and actually the strengths to for your ability to serve. Can you share how embracing your own story has deepened your connections to others?
Absolutely. So when I had cancer a few years ago, I was very careful to not really share much about that. It felt too personal and too just no one's business, But towards the end of my journey, like getting surgery and waiting for test results and all that, like I really needed community. Like I really needed to, I felt very alone. You know, I don't know anyone in my who has cancer. You know, I wasn't in any support groups. Like, and so I just put a message out, and Facebook's mostly my like friends and family, whereas Insta and LinkedIn is more like my professional and public network. Right. But like I put a message out on Facebook and I said like, hey, and it was a picture. It says cancer sucks, or it said F cancer, but not with the full word. And shared a little bit about my journey and like I'm waiting for test results, like just said good advice my way. And the amount of outpouring I received from that, and people who either had cancer and I never knew, or had a direct loved one who had cancer, and like so many positive stories and just so much reassurance, and like that was wonderful. And it also made me understand like, wow, like people are going through it and no one's really talking about it, and we're missing out on opportunities for connection because of that fear of vulnerability. So if we can get over that fear and put it out there, we're going to get so much back as a result. And we're going to make a safer, more inclusive place for others who didn't feel like they could be sharing about that. You know, like with my alopecia, I did a Disrupt HR talk, which are 5-minute talks about something disruptive to the field of HR. And my talk was on visible differences in the workplace. And my very first slide was a quote from Jay-Z, and it said, "Allow me to reintroduce myself." And I stood on stage and I pulled my wig off and threw it out in the audience and gave the rest of the talk completely bald, and like, I just wanted to own it. I wanted to own it to empower others to own it as well. And yes, as I said before, being bald is like having a naked head. So I had a naked head on stage with 300 people, potential clients and collaborators and partners in the room. But I just owned it and they loved it. I got such great response. It's been like the top performing talk on Disrupt HR, like nationwide, like it's great. So I feel like there's a lot of benefit we get from vulnerability. We just need to get over that fear of it.
Yeah. We talk here on the Season of Self Love with vulnerability. That is our strength. That is our superpower of the vulnerability, because within that vulnerability, that's where we find our authentic self. We talk a lot about pulling that mask off. And I love when you say, let me reintroduce myself, when you pulled off that wig. And I'm just imagining it. It was like you pulled off a full mask of your whole life right there, just going into something new. That's beautiful. That was truly beautiful. So I also see that you talk about self-love, how self-love helps us to serve others without losing ourselves. And I know that is so very powerful. But how do you keep your own cup full when you're constantly giving?
It's first identifying what brings you joy. So, some people would say, I garden, or I do music, or I dance, or I color, or I watch old movies. But like, those aren't the right answers. The right answer is, what can you do that truly lights up your heart and soul and gives you joy? Because that's the only way we can fill our cups. And for me, it's spending time with my husband and my son. It's seeing live music. It's being in nature. Right? But I know that that's the right formula for me. And everyone has their own formula. So A, figuring out what that formula is, and B, really committing to making the time for it. Like, I need to put that in my schedule. If it's not in my schedule, it doesn't happen. So even if I'm putting a hike in or yoga in, or, date night, go to see live music, it's in my calendar, and I follow through on it. I try to follow through on it as much as I would for a job or any other obligation that I have, right? And so it's prioritizing yourself the way that we prioritize everyone else. And as you said, we can't pour from an empty cup. So taking care of yourself is just as much a part of the work as it is serving others.
Yeah, it truly is. I found, when I first heard of not pouring from an empty cup, and I'm old, I'm older, I'm 52 years old. I'll be 53 this year. And the first time I heard about this was probably about 2 years ago, when I brought Dr. Will onto this platform with me. And he had said to me, he was like, you have to stop pouring from an empty cup. You have to allow your cup to overflow. And I was like, what? But when he explained it to me, I truly understand what that meant. What that meant. One thing about me is with the joy, what joy and lights me up, it truly is helping others. That truly lights me up. My phone used to always ring all the time. But what I've learned, especially going through my spiritual journey, is that everyone is not accessible to your energy and your peace. Everyone is not accessible to it, meaning that they don't even have the capacity for what you have to offer right now. So you're steady pouring into a cup with a hole in it. Basically. Yeah. And so when I got that in my mind, when I saw that, I was like, wow. And I really started to see a lot of things change for me physically and emotionally with doing that. And it also made me appreciate just a giving back or just being on this platform alone, even appreciate it even more, because when you speak, when you talk, and when you there, like right now, you're glowing, you attract more of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When we talk about self-love, people don't always connect service with self-love or even self-care. But you've shown that you can be one in the same. What does that look like to give from a place of authenticity?
So I think it's a matter of understanding our purpose and our mission. What are we here to do? And especially with building my own company, right? Like the work that I did, the service that I did, was because I've always wanted to make the workplace a better experience for humans. So that was always like very clear. And I would either work for other companies or have my own company that was fulfilling like that mission. So, and then that makes the work super authentic, right? And what was challenging in the early days of my business was monetizing my work, because I would do it for free. Like I'm doing the thing I set out to do, but your girl's got to pay her bills and overhead and, salary. And like, I need to monetize this. Right. And so I think it's a matter of finding something that you would do for free, but if you can get paid for it, that means it's a twofer. You're not spending 40 hours a week working for money and then another 20 hours a week volunteering because that's your passion, but like, how can you double up essentially? Because I don't have much time for volunteering, but I don't do much volunteering. I work with just a couple organizations, but I feel like I'm getting my personal desire for like doing impactful work that makes human lives better, even just a little bit. Like I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a therapist. Like I'm not someone who's going to like really transform someone, but if I can make their experience at work just a little bit better, that's so many waking hours we spend like in the office or at our job. If I can make that just a little better, I think the overall effect, is really powerful over time.
Yeah. I think anything that someone can give you that is of a positive, of a growth for you, is a part of their transformation. So don't make yourself small in that aspect. You know what I mean? All right. So you're all about building compassionate, exclusive communities. What role has Allyship played in your work and your healing journey?
Allyship?
Allyship. I'm sorry. Didn't I mispronounce it?
Yeah. It's been paramount. Like I'm a first generation college student. I come from a low SES background. I didn't have the resources or the guidance that, other kids have. So like my allies when I was young, like teachers, particularly, going out of their way and helping me with the college application process or recommending that I take the SATs or, and I've had allies. I remember I didn't have the best home situation growing up, and my boyfriend, his dad would drive me home every night. So I'd come over, have dinner at their house, hang out in the evening. And he would drive me home at like 10 o'clock every night, like right before I had to go to bed. Because he knew it wasn't a good situation there and that I was safer and more comfortable at his place, right? So he essentially took me in for like a year or two, So like early foundational who I am, absolutely. And then in my professional career, I mean, it's mostly been male allies helping me navigate being a woman in the workplace, a mother in the workplace. And then most recently, my former business partner, she was my ally when my father passed away. She was my ally when I got cancer. She was my mental health ally when I had a mental health crisis. And the funny thing is, like, she's a Black woman. So people look at us and they think, oh, Dr. V must be the ally because she's a white woman. And in racial situations, of course, I will do whatever I can be to be a good ally to her. But she's been my ally in so many different ways. So all that being said, like, allyship is a really beautiful thing because it, by definition, to be an ally, you cannot be one and the same. America cannot be an ally to America, right? Like, so we need to have some sort of difference of our identities that we are crossing, we are bridging, like my male allies or my mental health allies. You can't be a mental health ally if you yourself are going through a mental health crisis. You need to be mentally stable to be a mental health ally, right? So like, we're going across these differences to help make the world a better place for the marginalized and underrepresented groups, right? And we're leveraging our power, our status, our privilege to do that. So it's a beautiful thing because it's helping change power differentials. It's getting us to work together across our differences. It's taking away this us versus them and replacing it with just us, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Beautiful. So let me ask you this. What is one powerful way that we can start being better allies, not just to others, but to ourselves?
Yeah, so that self piece is really important. So I gave a really powerful keynote recently to an organization about mental health and allyship in the workplace. And I used the same framework that I use in my book, Act Like an Ally, Work with an Ally, which is allyship is a two-way partnership. It is not just what the ally does. It's what the ally does and what I call the partner, who's the person who's benefiting from that allyship. And so this keynote I gave, I talked about 3 areas of, mental health advocacy that we could have both as allies, but also as self-advocates, as the partner, the person needing an ally, right? And so, so being able to come at it from both of those perspectives, and knowing that allyship's a two-way partnership that, both parties have roles to play. So whether you are trying to be an ally to someone from an underrepresented or marginalized group, or whether you are from that underrepresented or marginalized group, there's certain things that we could do to work better together. Because I think about, I always say ally means action. It is not an identity. You cannot just say I'm an ally. I say don't even call yourself an ally. Wait for someone to give that designation to you, and that's how you know you're doing it right. Mm-hmm. So if we aren't calling ourselves allies, we need to make sure that the work that we're doing as allies is aligned with the people who we're trying to help and serve. And so you need to have communication and partnership. You need to work together to figure out, okay, if ally means action, what actions can I take to make sure I'm actually benefiting the individual or group that I'm trying to serve, right? So that relationship, that partnership is just pivotal for allyship to work.
Right. So the one thing is what I love to do here is I love to get very practical. So do you have any daily, weekly rituals around the service or community care?
I think it can be 2 very simple questions. You can ask yourself either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day. The first is, what's one thing I can do today to serve others? And what's one thing I can do today to serve myself? Or at the end of the day, what's one thing I did today that served others? And what's one thing I did today that served myself. And knowing that question's coming at the end of the day when you're getting ready for bed or whatever that looks like, it's an excellent reminder to make that time and space for taking care of others and ourselves.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, so I want to take this moment for you to actually talk about your book right now. For listeners who want to pick up your book, what can they get from your book?
Yeah, so as I shared before, it's 2 books in one. It's literally 2 books in one. So when you pick it up, it says on one side, act like an ally. You flip it over, it says work with an ally. And the books then reference each other. So you'll be reading, in the partner book, the work with an ally book, it will say, I told allies on page A42 to be courageous. So give them something courageous to do. And then I want them to be like, what is she saying on A42? And like turn the book over and look at that side, So what you're going to get from the book is a dual perspective of what it means to both act like an ally and work in partnership with an ally to like get stuff done. Even though you might pick it up for one side or the other, you're probably going to end up reading both sides, because as I mentioned with my former business partner, like I've been her ally, she's been my ally, like we've both needed both sides of those skills to, effectively work together. So I think that's the biggest thing. You're going to get a lot of actionable strategies. I try to make it as tactical and easy to, implement as possible. I'm all about behavior change. So what are the behaviors that we can do? And the chapters are structured as such, as a chapter on vulnerability and empathy and building trust, and like actually how do we do that together? And it's also one final thing you get from the book is you can buy 2 and give it to the person that you want to be working with. So if you want to work with an ally, buy one for your ally. If you are an ally, want to work with someone else, buy it for them. You can read it together, maybe the opposite side, right? And then flip it or something. And like, it could be like a group experience, a group exercise.
That's beautiful. I like that. When you first were saying, I was like, oh, wow, that is such gift balance. That's what I heard. Gift balance. That's what I heard. But now as you talk about it and you say, well, you can get 2. You can get one for whoever you're working with, which is a great thing, because now we're really on the same accord with the questions and the answers. So we can kind of sit together and kind of go through those things. Wow, I like that. That was I like that. You go, Dr. V. All right, family. Well, here's your call to action for this week. I want you to take a moment and reflect. I want you to ask yourself, who can I serve today? And how can I show up authentically for them or for myself? And here's another journaling prompt for you. I want you to reflect on the time that you experienced and gave genuine service, and how did it transform you? So, Dr. V, remember what I said. Don't make yourself small. These little things right here can help transform someone in every little way. And also, I encourage you to check out Victoria's incredible work in her upcoming book. And I want to make sure that I'm saying the right website. Is that MedeleySolutions.com/Allyship?
Yes, that's it.
All right. So let it inspire you both as an ally and a beacon of healing in our community. Dr. V, again, I want to thank you so much for just bringing a whole heart to our conversation. You reminded us of the vulnerability when embraced, that it becomes the root of compassion. The healing is communal and is giving back. And we've done it all in love and feeds and souls. And to all our listeners, I want you to remember, don't have to change the world in a day. One kind word, one act of love, one moment of authenticity. That's when the revolution began. So I want to ask you, Dr. V, do you have any last words for our listeners today?
Just that when it comes to our experience, whether at work and community, organizations and family, just know that all we really want is to feel valued, respected, seen, and heard. So whatever we can do throughout the day, whether it's a slight smile, whether it's a hug, whether it's eye contact, whether it's getting someone's name right, getting their pronouns right, these little things we can do can have such a big difference on our human experience. So like, take care of yourself and others. That's how I would end.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, my beautiful people. And next week, we're going to go even deeper with more powerful topics. So until then, I want you to remember that if this podcast, if this episode has resonated with you and you think someone needs it, share it. Share it, share it, share it, share it. All right, so until next time, keep loving yourself, and move forward. Have an amazing day. Have a good one. Thank you so much for joining me today on this journey of intentional healing. I hope that this conversation has filled your cup and reminded you of the beautiful and worthy person that you are. I want you to remember, healing isn't about rushing. It's about showing up for yourself with love and intention, one day at a time. So I'll see you back here Monday and Wednesday for another episode of the Season of Healing Intentionally, right here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. So until then, keep choosing you. And visit us at the seasonofselflovepodcast.com for show notes and resources. And remember to connect with me on Instagram at The Real Nyomi Banks. This has been brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, because your healing matters. You are loved, you are worthy, and you are exactly where you need to be. Take care.